Hello and welcome along to the Turn 1 podcast. This is episode number 15 of the podcast run, and today it's quite a solemn day really, because we are discussing the tragic passing of F2 driver Antoine Hubert, who tragically passed away at Spa. Joining me to discuss him will be Lard, Will, Emma and Henry. Guys, how are you doing?
Hello.
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 Hey. Let's jump in, shall we? What a loss. What can we say?
There's not really too much we can say, really.
I think the silence then just said it all, to be quite honest.
Absolutely. I mean, he was a young, talented driver Renault had lined up. Such a good talent. He was part of the Four Musketeers. And I know that you've been digging up some stats, Henry, haven't you, about this guy?
Yes, so in 2013, he moved up to the French F4 Championship, and in his first attempt at it, he won it, finishing the season with 11 wins and 2 further podiums. So obviously in 2014, he moved up to the Euro Cup Formula Renault 2 litre with Tech 1 Racing. He finished 15th overall with 6 points scoring finishes throughout the season. He also was a guest driver for the Formula Renault 2 litre Alps. Same again for the 2015. He did 6 events for the Alps series. He won 4 of those 6 and finished second in the other 2. He finished 5th in the Europa Cup Renault series with wins at Silverstone and Le Mans and another few more podiums to his name. Now, obviously, he won GP3, and he was the last person to win GP3 because they've renamed it, haven't they, to something else now?
F3.
F3. So he was the last one to win it as GP3, and obviously he'd moved up into F2 this year.
Mm-hmm.
He had signed, obviously, for the Renault Sport Academy, and people would say he was like Alain Prost.
In what way? Just go a bit. Explain a little bit more how he was like Alain Prost.
Well, he had the speed, but he also had a brain that could analyse things, and he'd be out on the track, but he could always work. He'd work things out and knew what he needed to do. If that makes sense.
So kind of like he was the new professor, really.
Yeah. Which is weird because his idol was Alain Prost. But he won this year in F2. He'd won Monaco and France, and at France he'd had a new hat made as a tribute to Prost. And Prost didn't know until somebody said, "Have you seen his helmet?" And he was very humble about the fact that Hubert had done that.
Wow. Emma, you've seen Hubert race. What was during Silverstone? What was your feelings when you were watching a junior racing? Did you know much about him? Were you paying attention to him at all? Did he stand out?
I wouldn't say I was a fan.
Okay.
But that would be mainly because when I watch the junior races, I'm more patriotic in a sense. I'll pay attention to our homegrown talent in a sense. But I was aware of him and I knew of his analytical nature.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all really competitive when they're on the track, clearly. But there was something about him that you thought, well, he could potentially get into F1, because I do like watching, seeing how they grow and develop through the rankings and who could potentially pop into F1 in the future. And he was definitely one to watch. Like I was watching Lando Norris over the past couple of years or so. You thought, yeah, he could, because he was in the Renault Academy, you'd think, yeah, there's a potential in a couple of years he could be eyed up for one of the seats. So he was definitely one to watch.
Yeah, agreed. Lard, let's come across to you. Potentially, Emma nails on the head. Could have been one of the greats. Where would you have seen him end up? Do you think he would have ended up at Renault? Do you think he probably could have got a junior drive, like in Alfa Romeo? One of the other teams. How would you have seen his potential from what he left?
From my point of view, with not being fully in depth with F2 or F3, so I've only seen his career, pardon the expression, post mortem. From the sounds of it, he probably would have ended up in a Renault to begin with because he was part of the driver academy.
Yeah.
And who knows from there? I mean, if Renault are going places Ricardo said they were, and said they are, I mean, judging from today, then he potentially would have landed himself in a very good car.
Yeah.
But, seeing as he was already a champion in F3, you've got to be good to be a champion.
Yeah. Agreed. Will? Don't really have a question for you, I'm afraid. I've kind of exhausted the questions. Quite a hard topic to talk about. Anything?
I can run with this.
Go for it.
Yeah. I mean, I am his age, bar a month or two. So to lose somebody so young, so talented, and so genuine. I mean, again, I haven't followed his career, through previous formulas and stuff, but since the accident, I've gone back and watched as much as I can, various races, interviews. He just come across as, what do I want to say, a classical driver, much like Prost, taking elements from more experienced drivers for such a young age, much more a mature approach to the sport, very technical, very talented in both respects, track and in the briefing rooms. And it's just such a sad loss to lose somebody so young and so talented, who had so many friends and was well loved. I mean, we lost Charlie White at the start of this year. That was a hard blow to the grid, especially being the first race of the year. And then we go and lose Nicky, and then we lose Antoine. And the atmosphere for Antoine between all the drivers, I mean, those that knew him, obviously, because they were growing up racing with him. And then those like Hamilton who, haven't raced against him but knew of his career or just respect him as a racing driver, They've all been there, young drivers coming up through all the formulas. And the atmosphere, although it was solemn, it felt like solidarity between everybody, every fan, what team you supported, every driver. Yeah. It was a sad occasion, but by heck have we got a great community in F1.
We have.
And that really struck home. That really did struck home.
Regardless of the faction that you've got with your team, do I call it faction? The loyalty you have with your team or your driver, the whole racing community comes together when things like this happen. Which leads to the next question. In this day and age, obviously, we're getting safer and safer. One of the things that I read in that I think it was Hamilton who said is don't go too hastily into making jump decisions. On the back of this, what could they have done? Other than take away Eau Rouge, which will probably never ever go because of how classic that corner is. What could they have done?
I genuinely believe that it was just a complete sheer freak accident. Unfortunately, I loaded an article which auto-played the video. I wish I hadn't seen it, but I have. And I genuinely think there was a set of sequences that all occurred, and I don't think you could have changed what had happened, bar like making the cars out of bloody Kevlar or something stupid. There might be improvements they'll be able to make in the future, which they will analyse, and it will take months to do all the data over it like they did with Jules. They won't make a hasty decision, but my gut feeling is that was just a sheer freak accident that hopefully will never ever happen again.
Yeah, agreed. Will?
Again, I did see the accident. The reports say all safety devices on the car work to the best of their ability, which is a good thing, you know. There's the halo and all the seat belts. You never know if it's going to fail, do you? Let's be honest. At the speeds and at the G-forces the drivers are driving at, and incidents. But yeah, I believe the line was it's just more than the human body could take, and drivers don't get enough respect for what they do.
No.
And how much they get pushed to drive. And like Mick said, I don't think there was anything that technology could have done at that point. You're still in a box being thrown around at various G-forces. And unless you slow down the cars, which there is still no guarantee that would work, there was nothing to be done. It's just a sad, tragic freak accident.
I think the way the cars collided with each other, without going into any detail whatsoever, the angle that the impact was made kind of made it a not very likely good outcome. If I'm really being careful with what I say here, but if I was the driver and that was a situation of if I was to go quickly, that would probably be the way I'd go. I wouldn't want it elongated, painful death in a sense. I think I've gone too far now. I'll shut up now.
No. This podcast is about honest opinions, and you know, you make a point. Obviously, we'd all want to go like that. I would take a guess. Me, I want to live forever, but I know that's not going to happen. But it's a case of it is so sad when someone so young is taken away. I know that they would be potentially looking at track. Obviously, it kind of happened with Senna, didn't it? When Senna was killed in Imola, they looked at tracks, they did alterations there to slow the cars down. Lard, I'm pointing this one at you. Could you see the FIA going down that route to say maybe Rouge is a bit dangerous? What can we do to slow them down just a tad, like that? Or do you think it's a case of something else might happen that they'll learn from? We know it's a freak accident, but what could potentially? What do you think?
The only thing that they could possibly do, in my opinion, would be to change what the barriers are made of to try and make them so they don't push the cars away from them as such. Maybe put the Tecmo barrier there. That we used to perform around the other circuits around the world. Because as Luke said, it to me from seeing some footage of it, hearing the investigation of what happened, it was just, you know, there were all factors that came together here, and they just triggered in one moment. And you know, when you consider what we also saw this weekend, that driver pretty much walking away.
Yeah.
You got to think, you know, it's a different set of circumstances, but it's still a massive accident that happened. But in this case, we unfortunately lost someone, which in this day and age is very rare.
Yeah.
Thankfully, since '94, it's been very rare.
Especially in European or World Championship single seaters, it's been relatively rare. Formula One. Well, it was the next one after Senna was Jules, wasn't it?
Yep, and even then, that wasn't until months after his accident because his body just didn't pull through. I mean, you have Henry Surtees with his accident. You had Dale Earnhardt. Now, his accident was quite innocuous, but because he wasn't wearing the harness, that's what caused his death in the car.
Yeah.
So, you know, we've got all these safety stuff that does trickle down from Formula One. So, you know, I don't know. It's a hard one to call because, again, they can't really change the track unless they, you know, take out Eau Rouge and Radion and straighten it, which could potentially leave it even more dangerous going at higher speed.
Yeah.
Because when you go into Road Rouge, unless you're really, really brave and take it flat, you ease off a little.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think they're going to look at it and go, well, this is a 1,000,000 to 1 chance that happens.
I think Lard's got a good point in terms of the Armco, because when I saw the footage, you literally you hit the Armco and that's projected you straight back out. It's not absorbed any energy whatsoever. So if there was the barrier was there to absorb some energy, so it lessened how a car would be projectiled back onto a circuit. So therefore the gravel trap could do a bit more of a job to help slow the car down even further. That could in turn not only save the car being a projectile back onto the track, but also give the driver a higher chance of survival. I think that could potentially be a way forward.
There's no gravel trap or anything there, though, is there either? But it looks like
There
extended
is a
runoff
bit,
there.
but it's not much.
Not on the game. I've just gone past it. There is there.
There used to be a gravel trap there.
I think it's concrete now.
Which leads back to the call of, should we reintroduce gravel traps? Should gravel traps disappear from from circuits?
No. Just as long as they don't do a stupid thing, put sausage curb there, because that could have been very, very a lot worse.
Yeah, I mean, when we get
already demonstrated this weekend.
That's definitely on the future podcast. We talk about Alex Peroni and that crash. On the other side, though, we have got Juan Manuel Correa. He was just a passenger, wasn't he? He was just a pure passenger. I mean,
yes and no. And the reason I say no was because of the direction he chose.
Okay.
I mean, the triggering incident was a tyre on Elise's car.
Right.
Going down, bursting. And so that was the trigger point. And people had to make a decision which way they were going to go to him. Carrere, unfortunately, chose the wrong side.
Yeah. But if you're in that situation, you're travelling, what speed was this, 150 miles an hour? I don't know what
you're
speed.
You're looking 179.
179 miles an hour.
Yeah,
you have
give you a split second to think where you want to go, but unfortunately he chose the wrong way.
Yeah.
And you also got to bear in mind you cannot see anything until you get to the top.
He wouldn't have seen anything till Mook says he got to the top.
And you've got the halo there as well, so that's going to give you a smaller window of opportunity to react. They're bloody good at reacting, but yeah.
The thing that's going to fear is Carrere's going to have that on his mind when he pulls through. And I hope to God he pulls through, because I know he's unstable, but he's in an induced coma. I hope he pulls through, but he's going to have that psychological impact that no matter how much it'll be said to him it was a freak accident, he'll probably be thinking he killed Hubert in his head.
He'll be blaming himself.
Yeah.
He'll be blaming himself.
Absolutely.
It's a hard one, though, isn't it? The mindset of the driver. This has been talked about a lot by the F1 drivers that weekend as well. Hülkenberg saying you put the helmet on, you forget what's happened, the adrenaline, the race, your job. And then you've got people like, going back in time, like Niki Lauda, who came back after an accident and didn't finish the first race he went to. Something makes drivers, I'm not going to say desensitized to these sorts of things, but can put them to one side, perhaps.
Yeah, it shuts them out as soon as you put the visor down.
Yeah, as soon as the visor goes down, they're a different breed, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, which is something I can't understand as just, an average person. I'm not sure the drivers understand how it works. It must be something they learn or grow into, I guess. Which is just an incredible feat, But like you say, nobody's going to blame him for that incident.
No,
it was just fate happening.
Yeah, absolutely. Henry, anything you want to add, or anything you brought up in the chat?
No, Michael Patterson just said he agrees it was a freak accident. And then Morton McLeod said, unfortunately, motor racing is dangerous and always will be.
Yeah, I know you put this on the chat, Mick, but I want to back this up. It's why it says on the ticket that motor racing is dangerous on every single ticket that's printed for any motorsport.
Yes, was it the F1 Paddock Pass post race? Will Buxton did a beautiful piece on Antoine and drivers and all sorts, and I urge you to check that out.
Yeah.
Words that just fitted so well. Beautiful piece of camera. Beautiful.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, I think for this special podcast, I think we'll leave that there. Any final thoughts that any of you want to share at all? No.
Drivers are a tough breed.
Yeah.
They really are a tough breed. Then they do stuff that most of us are, can't physically do, wouldn't be able to mentally do. They just seem to be able to do it on a fortnightly or some cases weekly basis, and they are almost superheroes. People, they are icons. They become over time, or legends. Until moments like this when they're shown as mortal, same as us.
Yeah.
He's not going to be forgotten. Let's put it that way.
No,
certainly not. So, I'll just wrap this up as I normally do. You can find us on social media. You can find us on YouTube. Thank you very much to my guests this evening for joining me on this podcast. Thank you, guys.
No worries.
No worries.
And on this note, we have no outro. We'll just say rest in peace, Antoine, and we'll see you next time round. Take care. Bye-bye.